Welcome back, everyone. I know we're getting started early here, but the saved video saves all this stuff, so I want to get going right away. Welcome. We're back here at Hybrid Athletics, Coach Nate Bevy. I've got my roller out, so while we're talking and waiting for people to show up, let's just get rolling while we're waiting. We're going to work on the glutes and the quads and the IT band today. So to begin with, let's throw that roller under your butt. We'll just start right in there. So just going to be rolling back and forth, kind of leaning to one side on the glute. As everybody shows up, we'll get them involved, get them going. Much like last day, we're going to start with a bit of rolling through the tissues that we are going to hit. And then as we get into loosening those up and breaking up the fissures and things that are in there, we're going to get into some good stretches. So passing from bottom of glute to top, leaning in just slightly different angles as we roll through this, taking most of the weight on the foot or on the side that's being rolled. If you want, you could even take that leg and throw it up on the top. Now we're putting it into a bit of a stretch position while we are hitting through the roller as well. Welcome Alana, Blake, SHP S9, I'm not sure, that's all good. Okay, so as we roll through these tissues, we're just kind of waiting for people to show up, getting a little bit of motion back and forth. Again, you don't have to be in the stretch position. That leg could just be straightened out and right along there. For those of you that are catching up after the fact and following along to this video, once we post it onto the Instagram story and onto YouTube, we're going to start with rolling out the tissues, and then I'm going to take us through kind of a quad and a glute and an under sort of hammy, but more like the inner groin and stuff stretches. And I'll kind of talk through how we can do these same stretches as a pre-workout stretch to work on mobilizing and getting ready to work, as well as a post-workout stretch to increase range of motion and stuff. So let's take that roller, and we're just going to slip it under the IT band. That's the outside of your leg. Okay, we go from iliac crest to tibial tuberosity. It's a muscle slash band slash bunch of tissue that doesn't really bend all that well. So rolling is one of the few ways we can get at that. So we're getting the outside of the right leg right now, okay? Let me adjust that camera maybe in a second. What we're looking for here is to kind of pass from one end to the other without going over the joints too much. This is a muscle that might feel kind of tight from lots of running these days. Maybe you're doing more running than usual because you don't have as much access to the gym. Work on full passes. You find a spot that's tight, you can just kind of dig into it a little bit there. You can even bend and relax the leg. That's really painful. Wow, I ran a lot yesterday. So as I fold through there, I really feel that digging into that IT band. I'll show you a quick stretch for that later. It's a tough one to get at. And then as we take this right over to the front, let's hit the quad a little bit there. Get that stretch, okay? You continue on. I'm just going to adjust this camera just a little bit. Hopefully we can see a little better. Just give us a little more angle. Okay, so we're hitting that roller. We're hitting the front of the quad right now. We've gone through the glute and the hamstring. So again, front of the leg as we fold, full range of motion, hip to knee. Careful around the joint section so that we're not hitting those ligaments and all that too hard. We want to hit the muscle belly. Think of medial and lateral. So that's the front inside as well as the outside edges of that quad. Take that roller, we'll go to the other side, okay? So we're here now, we're sitting back on it. We're gonna hit the glute first. As I mentioned before, we've got straight leg if we want. Rolling from the top of the glute through to underneath, almost into the hamstring. If you want a little more or a little different, take that leg up on top in the stretch position. Continue to roll, same idea. We've got about 2 more minutes of rolling. So we're gonna go through the glute, the IT, and the quad on the side. Then we'll get into the stretches. Back and forth here. Get a good stretch back down the side. Again, if we straighten it out, we get a little farther. Find those hot spots, kind of really dig into it. Again, leg back and forth. Whatever feels like you're getting a good breakup of the tissue. So we're loosening it up so that we can stretch as we go. Into the IT band again, so now we're down the side. We're going from top of the knee up to the hip. Nice and smooth, long passes. Get that full range. As I mentioned, the IT band crosses two joints that it doesn't bend very well at, so it's really hard to stretch. So this is a really good exercise. If you've got any knee pain coming from the IT band into the knee, I'll explain that a little bit in a second because it's a little different than you think it is. Take that over to the front. So now we're into the quad. So we're on top of the leg. Back and forth. You can fold and bend. You can twist back and forth. Find those spots that are tight. Go full range. Inside of the knee. Outside of the knee. Show you a different angle here. So I'm trying to get the inside of the quad as well as on top. A little bit of outside. Last 10 seconds or so here. You can fold it, find those good stretching spots. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, quick discussion for you. So, IT band crosses iliac crest down to tibial tuberosity, okay? It crosses the knee joint in a way that it doesn't bend, so medial and lateral, right? It only goes flexion, extension. And it crosses the hip joint in a way that it doesn't bend because the other leg's in the way. So we can't get that thing to stretch by bending the knee inwards. It just doesn't happen. So what we're gonna do is create a double torque on the hip and the knee, get a bit of a stretch. It's probably gonna manifest up in the hip area, but it's gonna alleviate some knee pain. So what happens sometimes, we run too much, we run a lot, we don't stretch enough. This guy pulls on the tibial tuberosity here and pulls outwards on the leg. That creates pain and impingement feelings on the inside of the knee. So when we have pain in here, it's often caused by tightness out here. So we're gonna try and hit that quick. So what I'm looking to do, get you a good angle here, is this leg's gonna go across in a seated fold position, and then I'm gonna roll this leg, the bottom one, over to the side. Okay, so I'm looking at different angles here. That's the left leg on top. Fold that leg towards the right, and then I'm gonna push on that knee slightly. I could even use my roller to add more torque to it. So what I'm looking for is in this back hip, the left hip, I should feel a little bit of tension, a little bit of stretch in there. Let my head relax. And I'm looking to feel just a slight stretch down the outside of the leg. This is gonna loosen up your IT as you move along here. It's a very tough spot to get at to stretch. We're creating a double torque through the hip and the knee at the same time. It's giving us a bit of a stretch, and it'll manifest wherever you feel the most tightness. I usually feel it up here near the hip, okay? We've rolled it out a little bit, and then this stretch here, and these are kind of the only two ways to really get at that IT band, because it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't fold across joints that stretch properly in the ways that it needs to. This will help with that knee pain that you're getting from running more, now that we're kind of stuck at home and we haven't been able to get to the gym and do different types of exercise. Maybe we're doing more sprinting work, more running work, those kind of things. Especially as you get into your off season, you're doing different types of runs. But even in season, athletes that have a high demand in their running in their sport, soccer and field hockey and sports like that, let's switch sides. You're gonna run into repetitive stress syndromes, right? So now my right leg goes up on top of my left knee. My left leg is in line with my body, and I fold that leg over to push that knee away. Again, I can use my roller for a little bit of extra distance because my hand doesn't quite reach that far. Pushing on the roller. Feeling this in the right hip now. Trying to lay nice and straight in line with what I'm doing here. Deep breaths as always. Trying to focus on that stretch and relax. Just letting it fall down. Feel it in the hips flexion. Another 20 seconds or so. relax that. As I mentioned last day, it's good to have a pre-test and a post-test on your stretches just to see how it's working out. So what we're gonna do is just jump up real quick. We're gonna do a set of 3 air squats. Looking to get nice and low, driving the knees out, over the toes, feet slightly turned outwards, chest tall, hips low. So there's 1, 2, 3. Just kind of feel where was it stuck and stiff. Now we're gonna go into what we call the lizard series, okay? So we're in a nice long lunge position. We're gonna push the hip forward and get a bit of hip flexion to start. So this is actually called a high dragon in yoga terms. So I'm pushing the hip forward. You guys stay there, I'll give you a different angle. Trying to feel that hip flexor stretching. If I'm doing this as a pre-workout stretch, so getting ready to work out, I wanna kind of maybe pump into it a bit, work around the angles, dig through the corners, make it a little bit dynamic as I'm getting into different depths and ranges, right? Again, I'm focusing on staying up tall. I'm not overextending, but I'm not collapsing in. You can see if I collapse, my butt sticks out. I want to stick it through, keep the hip flexor in, and I'm digging into those corners, right? If it's a post stretch, maybe I'm just holding it statically where I can get that range of motion. As I move forward into the next stretch, I'm just going to fold down in farther now to what's called the lizard stretch. Okay, so keeping here, I can get into this tall position, pushing the hip forward. Again, different angle from the side for you. If I'm fairly flexible, I can drop my elbows right down to the floor. Again, from the front. So I'm nice and low. My knee is tracking outside and slightly ahead, maybe towards the toe. So I'm in that squat position. If it's pretty tight in there, maybe I want to push up with my hand, get a little bit more stretch. Drop the elbow down, digging around. If you're really flexible, you can get right down to the floor as we push through there. Okay, so I'm pushing that knee out. I could get a bit of rotation through the spine. Once again, if this is a pre-workout stretch for you, dig around in the corners and move around. Be dynamic. Find the little bits and corners and stretches, and just keep moving through those ranges like you would do before a workout, loosening the range. If you're at a post stretch, maybe you're gonna hold this stretch a little bit stiffer, like a little more still, getting a better position. Continuing in this range, what we're gonna do is add the back leg to it. So this is called the twisted lizard. You're gonna take that front hand that's by the front leg. We're gonna reach back. If you're pretty flexible, you can just kick your foot up and grab onto it into this twisted position. If you're unable to do that, sometimes what we'll do is we'll bring this foot back to ourselves, grab the hand onto the foot, then you bring the other foot forward into that lunge again. If this is difficult for you to do, you could use a band or a sweatshirt, hook the foot, and then now I have it in my hand, and I can hold the band instead of the foot. Same rules apply here. This is a pre-workout. Kind of pump into the corners, dig around, find those spots where you're trying to loosen it up. If it's a post-work, maybe we're just holding the stretch a little more. You could also add a bit of Pnf stretching here. So that's where we would fire the quad, the back leg. I'm gonna push against the foot, hard, 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 hard. 2, 1, and then I relax, and I engage the stretch a little farther. After about 10 seconds of stretching, I'm gonna push hard on that foot, get the quad to fire, and then I relax and hold it. Again, so that's 5 seconds or so of firing the muscle, and about 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds of holding and relaxing. Okay, we've finished this one here. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna drag this foot across for what's called the pigeon. So if I just lay across it, now my leg is across body, chest can be tall, or I can fold right down into it, okay? If you're not terribly flexible, maybe this foot slips back a little bit and you're in a bit more of an angle at the knee. As long as there's no pain in the knee, we're doing okay. Keep that chest out, fold over. If you're fairly flexible, you can pull the leg across more. You can maybe even go farther than I can. Get it right across the chest and then fold down over top. Arm down if you want to relax, head down, deep breaths. We'll go about 30 seconds here. Same as before, if this is a pre-workout, kind of dig around, feel those corners. I'll go nose to toes, nose to knee. I'll just kind of dig through those spots. Find the places that feel good. If find the places that feel bad. Get in there. If it's a post-workout static stretch, maybe you just find a spot for you to relax. Take some deep breaths and just let the stretch happen. As we come out of there, let's stand up and we're going to retest halfway through. So those 3 air squats, right? Just kind of shake your leg out, let the blood come back. I'm going to try 3 of those air squats again and see if there's a difference between the side we stretched and the side we didn't, right? This one just feels like it's ready to go, feels in a great spot. This side still feels a little stiff as I squat. So let's do the other side. Starting in the hip flexor again, nice and tall, push that hip through. Again, like I mentioned last time if you were here, we're looking to hold stretches for somewhere in the 45 to 60 second range. You could hold longer, that's fine. We don't want to do the old 15-second stretch. It's better than nothing for sure. It's a good little bit of a warm-up. I feel like what happens is your body wants to grab on and protect itself when you first start to stretch it. And it's kind of like, what's happening? Let's tighten up a little bit. Let's be protective. And then it goes, oh, okay. You're not trying to kill me. You're just relaxed stretching. Let's let it go, and it eases into it after about 15 seconds. And then it starts to relax, and you can actually get some stretching. While we're here, again, just digging into those corners if it's a pre-stretch for you. Even if it's a post, whatever. Hips tall. I'll get a little bit more groin this way. Turn the foot out to get a little more hip flexor. If you want to add, you can even reach up high, really open up that whole side, hand behind your head, whatever works. And then from here, we will drop down into that lizard lunge. Hands are down, find that spot. Again, I'm trying to stay fairly square to the leg. If I show you from the side here, this knee is tracking slightly ahead of the toe, and it's going outside. Maybe it's in line with the toe, kind of like my squat position, right? If I was to mimic this up, I'm in a squat position, drive right back into that lunge. Nice and low. Visual purposes, I'll go here. Again, deep in there, digging around, finding those spots. Back hip flexor might feel some of the stretch. Underneath here, I can feel some of it. Depends on where you're tight that day. Hand on for some twist, a little bit of low back, a little bit more groin. Drop the elbow in there. Again, if you're really flexible, you can even maybe get your head down by your toe. Test, retest. Maybe today you can barely get past your elbow and knee. Another day you're to the shin. Another day you're to the floor. By the end of the month, get your knee down, your head down by your toe and knee. Okay, twisted lizard. So we take the front hand, reach it back. If we need to sink the hip, that's okay. Grabbing the foot, and then we want to bring that hip back and through again. So if I'm doing this stretch back here, you can see my butt sticking out, and I'm not really getting much stretch through that hip flexor. I need to drive that hip forward, put the weight into the front leg, and get a good stretch through that back leg. Long line from my left shoulder to left hip to left knee. That's going to give me a nice stretch in the left hip flexor. Again, digging through the corners, playing around with that. Again, if I rotate the knee, it gets a little bit more groin. If I straighten it out, I get a little bit more into the hip flexor, that kind of thing. Once again, while we're here, we can do some Pnf stretching. So we can drive the foot against the hand, push, 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 3, 2, 1, and relax. Engage the stretch a little farther. And then again, drive into the hand, push, 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 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good, dig around in there. And then I'm going to let that go. And I draw the leg across again for the pigeon. So here, leg is across the front, tall chest, fold over. As I said, if it's pre-workout, dig around those corners, move around and dynamically stretch it out and warm it up. it's post and you want to relax, just lay your head down, take some deep breaths, let your body relax into the stretch. Most stretches are pretty relaxed. That twisted lizard, obviously we're actively pulling on the leg a little bit, holding on. But if you, at other times, are following along to this stretch series, or you want to watch a movie on your iPad, that kind of thing, you want to try and find a stretch routine that allows you to do other tasks. We're just so wired to be active all the time and always doing things, and so if stretching becomes its own task and we're not super focused on it, then we tend to fall away and not really stretch, just kind of sit in positions. So what we want is to be focused on stretching, but if we need distractions from other things, then that's what we need. Okay, so we finished both sides there. Let's stand it up. Shake out that leg again. A little bit of blood flow. Drop into that squat and see how both sides feel. Ooh, this side feels looser because I just did it, right? Shake them out, dropping down. I definitely feel like I've got a much better range of motion, less junk going on in those hips as I squat. Nice tall position through the heels, standing back up, okay? If you had a hard time with that twisted lizard where we grab onto the foot, it's very similar to what's called the couch stretch. So back here you can see I've got a wall and a bench. This could be like the same as a couch or whatever, or the side of your bed. What we do here is we would put the inside leg up the wall, drop the knee down into the corner of the wall and floor. You don't need the bench, but it does help to have something to push on. And now you can see I'm in a similar position to what's called the couch stretch. Okay? That's a little bit more intense on the quad. That's a preview of a stretch that we'll work on next week involved in there. We'll get a little bit more, we'll do like the hip flexor into somewhat of the lizard and then into some more hamstring work there. Okay, so we want to focus on quality stretches during these times, getting nice and deep into the stretches, being active if it's pre-workout, being passive and trying to like let it stretch out if it's post-workout, deep breathing, quality movement, and just enjoying the motion. Each one of these stretches kind of has its own series on our YouTube page. We've got like 5 or 6 minute stretch videos if you want to get in on any of those. And each one focuses on a certain piece. So we've got some upper body, we've got hip flexor, we've got hamstring, all those kinds of things. So if you go to Hybrid Athletics on YouTube, look for our symbol. It's like the maple leaf in the middle of a weight. And then you'll see all of our stretch series there. And each one's like 5 or 6 minutes. You can do multiple ones. You can just slip one in the middle of the day, whether you're at work or whatever it is. And yeah, stay on top of your mobility. Thanks for following along, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next Monday.